Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Back at you and Gloves Off, and today I'm here with great guest, another pillar of the community, and he has his own podcast 24/7. Judge Jesus Garza. How are we doing, Judge?
Fine. How's it going with you?
Good.
Good.
We're going to continue our conversation on the elections because we've been watching very closely what happened yesterday. I think there were over 3,000 people came out.
Yeah, there were about 3,600 people come out and vote, which is almost average. But again, you need about 3-4 days of dates so you can determine whether or not there's a high turnout or not a high turnout. So we're still in the waiting period.
Absolutely. And with that being said, we're talking about, there's a lot of races. You know, we talked about the U.S. race and the races in Laredo and the Webb County, the state. But now we're going to talk about the other races that are just as equally as important. These are the races for the school boards, both Laredo Independent School District, UISD, and also for our college. And we're going to talk about them and which way people should go, or about the candidates and all that good stuff. And I guess.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, the down ballot races are just as important as the top ballot. I mean, because the ones that affect us the most in our lives, many times, are the down ballot, the school board races, the college races, the justice of the peace races. Those races are much more closer to us than the ones that are happening in Austin or in Washington. So we should pay attention to those.
Absolutely. And we'll go ahead and start off with, you know, there's a lot of people running. And we're going to go ahead and take the Laredo Independent School Districts. And there's actually 4 races there. And we're going to take one, and it's for the Laredo Independent School Board Trustee, District 1. You have Jose Juan Ramirez Jr., you have Esmeralda Mata Schoenfeld, and you have Juan Lorenzo Almaza Jr. And here you got people that have always been wanting to be involved and growing in there. Some good folks.
There always are. What I always liked about the school race is the fact that none of them get paid. So they're doing it for the right reasons, for the most part. And so we do give them a lot of credit that they're at least putting their name out there and that they want to give public service a shot. However, sometimes you get a few bad apples along the way. In this case, that particular race, the problem with all those races is that because they're so down ballot, you don't hear much about it. But I'm familiar a little bit with that race. All 3 of them are good character people. They mean well. But again, by the way, LISD is different than UISD. In LISD, when you run and you don't get 50 plus 1, then there's a runoff situation. So when in a case like this, you got 3 people running. If there is no 51%, let's say, then there will be a runoff in December. As opposed to UISD, that whoever gets the most votes wins.
That's interesting, you know, because
and they chose it, by the way. There's merit to both, I guess, to some degree, but the school boards decided to do it like that. You know, LISD decided to allow for the runoff system, and then the UISD decided to go with the other type of system. So it's within their control.
Absolutely. And a lot of good guys in there. Like I said, Juan Ramirez is probably one that I know closer to, but all the rest of them, what I've seen and what they've done, I think they're doing okay. And it just depends on how you're gonna, who you're gonna hang around with, who you're gonna associate with.
Right, and that goes back to what I said earlier about relationships do matter. It does matter because what I've seen in the past is that when you have a situation where you do know a lot of people in the community, then you have a relationship with these people. And when you have a relationship with these people, then they're more likely to vote for you. In the case of Mr. Ramirez, Juan Ramirez, his family is very well known on the west side. He has people who are in office are related to him. And he does also work for a public official in Webb County. So those are all pluses that help his cause. I would venture to say that it's more likely that he can pull it off without Roja. However, anything can happen. And I've always believed elections are like in football, on a Sunday football game. On any given Sunday, there will be a surprise. We just don't know which of all the races will be a surprise. So I'll let you know about that.
No, you're right. You know, and I can't agree with you more. This is a thing really where you're running, and especially in this election, your friends, who you're associated with,
Yes.
who you're helping out, they're going to help you push forward. And that's really basically where this is at.
Is that bad to say that it's okay to have friends and be politically connected? There's nothing wrong with it so long as you're qualified. In this case, it seems that all of them are qualified for this particular position, so I can't speak ill of any of them in that regard.
Sure. On the next one, you have LISD School Board Trustee, District 3, which is Mr. Hector Noyola, who is faced off with Veronica V. Orduño. And everybody knows Mr. Noyola. He's very helpful in that community. I do not know Ms. Orduño, so I couldn't tell you which way it would go.
Well, I'll tell you this, that Mr. Diola has certainly put in more than 40 years of public service through the Boys Club.
Sure.
And so he's made a lot of connections with the people in the community, and he has definitely made a name for himself because, you know, when he was synonymous to the Boys Club. He lives there, he used to run it. Of course, he just retired maybe 6-8 months ago, but he has a lot of connections. And of course,
Sure.
he's done a basically decent job in terms of the work that he does. I mean, however, there's this 800-pound gorilla in the middle of the room, and that happens to be the Ruy Rodriguez scandal. The Ruy Rodriguez scandal did affect several public officials, people who were tied into Ruy Rodriguez or who were associated with Ruy Rodriguez. Mr. Noyola was one of them. You need to call it what it is. If you know Mr. Noyola, if you never had any issues, chances are you're going to vote for him. If you do not know Mr. Noyola, and in fact you know he is tied into that scandal that happened to Ruy Rodriguez, chances are you're going to think twice about voting for him. So the other person happens to be a retired teacher. So that person, I do not know her as well. It may be that she has connections with the community. As you know, though, they get to vote in that particular area, and this happens to be around the Boys Club area, around Zacate Creek area. It doesn't go to the west side, it doesn't go all the way to the east side, it's somewhere in the middle.
Sure. Again.
And by the way, I want to say Mr. Orduña is being supported by all the former candidates who ran against Mr. Noyola in the last 8 to 10 years. So definitely there is a semi-drama going on within the school district there with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The next is LISD School Board Trustee, District 5. And here and they're trying to replace Ms. Minita Ramirez, who is now the president of Laredo College. And you have several candidates that are running there. You have Cindy Vasquez, you have Sandra Ibarra, you have Valentin Valeriz, you have Alejandro Perez, you have Jesus Chuy Olivares, and you have Gregorio M. Lopez. That's going to be a very contested race. You have a lot of people that have been in politics for a while. You have people that their families have been involved in the politics. This is, once more, you have a lot of good people. You have a lot of people that really want to see a change. I couldn't tell you pick this one or pick the other one or I'm supporting this one, because you have a lot of people there that it's just going to matter on bringing out the vote. And some people say you have a lot of cross-pollinations, because you have a lot of people that probably didn't think about it, but they're going to be taking from each other's
Yes.
voting tray. So again, I think this one, again, I can only say this, whoever pulls out the most is gonna win this one.
Yes, and really I just want to basically say to you that in that case, there will be a runoff. So whoever you vote for, and that happens to be in the Heights area on the southern part of Heights, and there you'll have different people to choose from. But at the end of the day, you're gonna end up having probably two of them running for election, and we'll see how it plays out there. But all of them are known. And again, when you don't have corruption issues or you don't have a candidate that's there, then pretty much it's really what the people want, and that's what direction you want to take the district in.
Sure.
So it's gonna be interesting what happens there.
Absolutely. Here, the next one, the final one for LISD is District 6. You have 4 candidates. You have Mr. Ernesto Noe. You have Julio Buddy Cavazos. You have David Ramon. You have Gilbert Jill Martinez Jr. Gilbert Martinez Jr. was an old board member for the college. He did well there, so he's going to bring that experience to you. You got Mr. Ramon, who's a teacher. I think all of them are teachers in some point or another. Work with the school district within that. So you're going to bring Mr. Ramon with his teacher connection coming in there. Again, a bunch of good guys running for trying to make it better. I don't see any nefarious actions within any of the boards here. I think everybody's just running to, you know what, let me give it a shot, see what I can do better.
You
which is
also have
pretty good.
Buddy Gonzalez, I believe, that's running. He's
Yeah.
a peace officer. What's interesting about that race is you have that peace officer who's originally from Rio Bravo, who actually was a commissioner in Rio Bravo, moving to the district. He is a peace officer. I believe he works for Webb County, maybe the Valley's office, I'm not sure. And he's going against a teacher from Nixon High School. And he's also going against an assistant teacher or a teacher as well from another school there in LISD. And of course you got Mr. Martinez as well. So you got a teaching environment in that world. But it's going to be interesting how it plays out. But it seems to me that based on what I hear, that the more likelier people will probably be Mr. Noe and possibly Mr. Buddy Gonzalez. But again, we don't know that because Mr. Ramon is known very well in the community. His wife ran for city council just 4 years ago. She got close as well. So there's a strong push for that to happen.
Yeah. So I see again. There are a bunch of good guys running.
They're all good.
There's nothing nefarious here going on. Like, you know what, we're running to control the board.
None
I don't
of
see that in LISD.
No.
In comparison, I do see it in
Yes, that's
UISD,
interesting.
and we're going to be talking about that right now, because UISD is a different flavor. You got people coming in there that you can see the power plays to control and who's going to control what, and I'm going to control this, and which is it good or bad? The problem is once that starts happening, things occur, and it just gives a bad name to the whole entity. I think people go in to run because they want to do something from your heart, not because I'm going to go in there to give somebody else an extra vote. And UISD is very much looking into that. Now, UISD, you have District 3, which is the incumbent, which is Elisa Flores Oliveros. And you have former independent superintendent Roberto J. Santos and Robert Bobby Villarreal. Again, it's a race that I see, I see Ms. Flores pulling it out, and nothing wrong with the other guys. I know Mr. Santos very well. I think they're all capable, but I think she's just going to pull it out because I think it's this season is going to favor the women more. You're going to start seeing how a lot of the women are going to be voting for more women, more so this time around.
Well, from what I see from my perspective, and again, this is from what I see. That doesn't make it correct, but that's the information since there are no polls out there. Ms. Flores was obviously involved with the disinfection story, which is a story that every time there's a discussion about the race, this contract with this school board member comes up. It has to come up. In that particular case, Ms. Flores had an opportunity to stop it. She didn't stop it. And that becomes an issue in of itself. Now, will it be big enough to derail her? maybe a totally different story. Mr. Santos, of course, has been there for more than 30 years. He has a long history in terms of being involved. In fact, he hired most of those people there. But what's going on now there is that inside UISD, the main office and most of the directors at UISD are supporting Lisa Flores, which is the incumbent. And so the odd man out here is Mr. Santos, who's no longer superintendent. So it's the way the machinery works. It's who's already in, and people tend to vote for the incumbent. So those are all pluses for Ms. Flores. However, the issue about the disinfectant company contract, it bears large at all these races. That will affect some of the turnouts.
Sure. Now on the next one is District 5 of UISD, and that one you have the incumbent, which is Attorney Javier Montemayor, and he's running against, I believe he's an agent of some sort, federal agent, Jose Osvaldo, and then you have George Rodriguez, who was a former LISD board member. To me, I'm going to give this race to Javier Montemayor for many reasons. You know, a lot of people might not like the fact, but Javier Montemayor is one of those board members that is there for the community. He's there when people are in trouble, and he goes and talks to principals. He goes and talks to people. Let's get this situated. You know, he's hands-on. While many of the other board members could care less about what's going on about that. He's one that's in there and helped out way too many people. I know that for a fact from having people that call me with issues with bullying. That's something that I get calls on every week by parents from both school districts. There's a problem here. It's a problem with drugs. There's a problem with a bunch of other issues. And when they happen in UISD, well, Javier is not only a friend, we've become, you know, since we were kids, but he's one that when I call him, hey, how can we fix this problem that we have here? You know what? Let me go take a look at it. And he's situated, and he's helped out a lot more people than what people think that's out there. And those type of public elected officials are the ones that you want. You might not like stuff on the board. Maybe you might like his point on yay, nay, black and white. But when you're out there helping the public, helping the citizens, then we're going to try to keep those people inside. And that goes the same way to commissioners and city council members and, you know, constables and so on and so forth.
Like I said, when you get rid of an incumbent, you really need to either prove that he's incompetent, or he's not listening to the people, or he's involved in some type of corruption. In this particular case, Mr. Montemayor, for the most part, has never had any issues with any of those matters. In fact, he attempted to bring back the disinfecting contract from the other board member, and he was outvoted. So an attempt was made to do that, and he took the lead there. Having said though that, he's obviously been very much involved in the community for so many years that again, Mr. George Martinez is also a very good candidate at UI. He was an LISD board member. However, when you look at it, at the totality of the picture, Javier Montemayor has done a tremendous job as a board member. That he, I think, is one of the few who can keep that district as clean as possible, as best as possible. So, and not only that, I just think that based on what I hear in Del Mar, which happens to be the Del Mar area, by the way, he seems to be able to clean up. He's going to clean up there. I think he's going to have the highest voter turnout of all the board members.
Yeah, I think so too. And you know, I do not know the stories behind why they want to run or whatnot. I know Mr. Rodriguez ran the last time. He didn't do that well.
Mr. Rodriguez has a very clean record and has a very clean motive.
He's a good guy, but there's just something.
But sometimes when you run against a candidate that also has a clean record, people tend to vote for the incumbent. They tend to vote for the guy who's already been put in that situation. And you know, when the thing was going on with the pandemic, Mr. Montemayor was the president of the board, and he's handled it as best as he could considering the circumstances. So I would venture to say to you that he did a pretty good job as a board member.
You know, there's a lot of things that we learned from the pandemic, and all these guys that are running, they're good guys. You know, there's not somebody there that I can say, you know, you're doing this.
But again, I do gotta mention the issue of the disinfectant company that was chosen by the school district as a whole, was voted by majority vote, is a black eye for UISD, will continue to be a black eye until this stops. And I'm hopeful that those checks stop coming, because it is not normal, it is not ethical for a board member to get a contract from his own board. It's just not, if nothing else, it's not ethical. And board members have a high ethical standard to make sure that they don't take advantage of the situation like that.
But you know, you have that, Judge, for many reasons. Is you have a lot of board members that go in there, and all of a sudden law firms start backing them up, and they're backing them up because they want the law contract to get the taxes and to go after people and to remove homes from people, and they start
Well,
going into
we're
that
talking about
sense.
special, yeah, there are some
You know,
special
so
interests.
so when you start those special interests, especially those, are very common for school districts
Yes, they
to
are.
approve, and
It happens in many school districts.
and a lot of them. And what happens is that we have to stop all that stuff. You know, we have to stop all the shenanigans with having an out of town or an out of school district firm. Let's make a contract to this. Let's make a contract to that. Why don't we hire our own? We should have it. It's big enough to hire its own lawyer to be taking care of this. They can pay for
I
it.
think that when it comes to the lawyers, I think that, for example, I requested, as soon as the election was called, I requested from UISD a list of all the candidates that are running for office. It took them 3 weeks to get me a return, when this is all public record in terms of, okay, who's running for office? You should figure that they would have released this information on the same day, just like LISD, like the city of Laredo and Webb County and so on. Instead, they took my request and gave it to the lawyers, who charged another $300 to $500 just to look at over that request, which anybody would have approved it. And to me, it's just an abuse of trust, to the point that I really think that UISD should consider getting lawyers from within, because it would be a lot cheaper than having to pay all these lawyers from the outside to do unnecessary work, because that's the deal. Anytime anybody requests for a request for some type of information, it has to go to the lawyers. Some of this stuff is so logical and so reasonable that you're just giving away money to lawyers.
And like I said, there's a lot of things that need to be changed, and you're not going to change it when people are stacking the votes. And right now we'll go into who's with what and whose parties with what. And look, remember, people, who you hang around with is who you are. I could care less of what people say. I mean, and who you hang around with is who you are, and that's just the way it is. And it goes the same way with politics, and it goes the same way with everything else. And
It's the way it is.
that's just the way it is. Now, for District 6 of UISD, you have the incumbent, Juan Roberto Ramirez, and who's running against him is Mr. Guillermo Memo Castro and Ms. Michelle Molina. Here's another one stacking the votes. You have that Miss Michelle Molina. She's the daughter-in-law of another board member in there. So when people start saying, "Oh, there's corruption," and this is, well, why are we going to vote for the board member's daughter-in-law? Don't you think she's going to run for that? Oh, she's her own person. No, it just looks
I
bad.
believe she's a teacher in one of the school districts.
I'm pretty sure she is.
And she has
nothing-
she has high qualifications, there's no doubt.
and I'm not talking
But
about
that
that.
isn't that's not the issue.
That's not the issue. The issue is you have a lot of people talking about contracts like that one, which was, to me, there's nothing illegal with a contract Mr. Rodriguez had there. They voted it in legally. It went through legally.
True, but it was
might-
unethical. It was definitely unethical, and they have a higher standard to uphold these standards, to be role models to our community.
So when you all of a sudden you have, it's unethical to, let's push my daughter-in-law to run in there to stack votes, it looks bad. It looks bad, you know. I know Michelle. I've met her a long time ago. Her father's a nice guy, and she comes from good family, but it just looks wrong. To me, I think she might make it.
Well,
you
let me
know?
tell you, but she didn't vote for this, so we cannot put the pressure on her because she had nothing to do with that.
No, she has nothing to do with that.
The only question is whether or not should a board member be related to another board member sit on the board, because that's the same issue is going to go apply at City Hall. If in fact Ms. Ciarroa wins, and there's already a Ciarroa, that is a legitimate public issue. Nothing wrong with it, but it's an issue that should it's not.
That's what I'm bringing up. This is an issue on that. And it gets into further with that. You know, you have that Mr. Roberto Villarreal, which is somehow also related to Ms. Molina through marriage, and you're like, maybe her stepdad or something like that might have been also the brother of this Villarreal. So things look bad. You don't want to put yourself in positions where things look bad. Nothing wrong with Ms. Molina. I think she's a great person.
Well, Mr. Villarreal was at one point related to Ricky Rodriguez by marriage.
So that puts the whole thing.
Yeah. Again, and again, this is not a gossip show. Just want to let everybody know that's not the issue. The issue is, should we have more than one person on a board with the same relation in terms of familial relations? And it's going to be easier for them to still vote independently from each other, or are they going to vote and collude and get the same result?
Absolutely.
I mean, those are legitimate public issues. They're legitimate.
You know,
it would not be public. It would not be an issue if you're running a business, if you're running your own personal affairs with your family or with friends, stuff like that. That is okay, even a nonprofit to some degree. But when you're running anything that deals with public money, that becomes a totally different issue, and people need to understand that is the issue we're talking about, not the gossip stuff.
No, I could care less about how they're related. I'm just pointing it out because I'd rather point it out now than something does happen and then it's pointed out and people start saying, "Oh, we never knew this." You guys know it now.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and nothing wrong with it. And I do believe that Ms. Molina is going to end up winning.
It's very possible.
Very possible that she's going to win. She's a good person. She's out there banging on doors. She's out there doing this. But listen, if you go inside, it's your voice. It's your opinion. It's your vote. Don't be coerced or manipulated for you to vote the other way, because that happens. And then, Laredo, we're tired of that. And unfortunately,
well, I do want to point out that Mr. Ramirez, though, Juan Ramirez, is actually been a board member for at least 8 years. He has been a very honorable man for the most part. He's done a good job. In fact, they have a school named after him. However, he's one of the ones who voted for this contract, and so that hangs high over him for making that. And as you know, he has some medical issues that's affecting him, and that becomes an issue as well. Medical issues can become an issue in a campaign, whether or not you can handle your job if you have certain type of disabilities. And of course, then you have Mr. Memo Castro. He has been a fixture in Laredo politics for over 25 years, and he has had a very successful business. So he does bring into the equation a sense of stability as well. And obviously, he's been speaking on the issues of corruption. So that gives him a sense of righteousness, a sense of possibly that he might be a good candidate as well to consider. But having said that, we can, again, only one of them can win because there is no runoff here.
Yeah, there's no runoff here. So, to me, I'm gonna put that race. I'm gonna put it more towards Michelle pulling it off, and she'll pull it off by a fraction. Mr. Castro, I think he's doing good. I think we need Mr. Castro in city council. I think he'll be a detrimental help for the city.
You mean a help for the...
Yeah, I think he'll be excellent as a city council member. I think he'll be one, or that can say, you know what, we're doing something, because he knows business. He knows exactly what he's talking about. I think he's a good guy for that, and we need people like that. But again, these are our opinions. We're just voicing them out, and there's nothing against anybody.
And by the way, we don't. We're not getting paid by these people at all in any way. We have no ads. Basically, we don't. I do have one ad for one candidate, but outside of that.
But you made a great point, because what you said was, can you have family members inside? Of course. I mean, there's a lot of people. Listen, folks. There's an old saying in Spanish. Haz una cosa que aparezca buena, que es mala, y haz una cosa que aparezca mala, que es buena. And what that means is basically I'm doing a good thing that is bad. It looks like a good deed and it's actually bad, or doing something that looks bad that is actually a good deed. And when we get into those troubles, when you have a husband or a wife that's either a fireman or a police officer in the city, and you're voting alongside their unions and their pay raises and so on and so forth. That's number one. That's a conflict of interest. You have family members that are going to be voting in issues here. Let's say you brought up an excellent point, Miss Alicia Cigarroa. Let's say the other Cigarroa is going inside. Can they vote on the same matter? You understand what I'm saying?
I think they can, definitely, if that ever happens, but I think Ms. Cigarroa needs to make a public statement, at the very least, to the public saying, just because we share the same last name, that we're gonna, doesn't mean we're gonna vote together. And I think to some degree, it does matter. El Partido Viejo, back in the 60s, 70s, early 80s, there was a lot of rhetoric running for office, and it was a fair comment to say, you know what, you tienes que quedar bien con uno para quedar bien con los dos, and so that you need to consider those issues. But again, that's a different issue, but I'll tell you with this one, I think that you got three good people for the most part. Other than the issue of this contract, like I mentioned to you, which is really a serious ethical issue that the superintendent should do better and stop funding it. But I think that Michelle she may have a good chance of winning this. However, I still think that Mr. Castro is out there every day from what I see. So we'll see.
Well, I'm seeing in different format of people that call and say, this and that, and they ask, and I go, I think Ms. Molina is out there pounding on doors, pounding the payment. And if Mr. Castro is doing that, great for him as well. I know what happens here is you have a good man.
And by the way, the public needs to know that this area happens to be the Mines Road.
Yeah.
So that's the area we're talking about.
Yeah, and you have Mr. Ramirez, who was an excellent board member, but you have health issues there. Now, what happens if he can't continue? Are they going to remove him from the board? Can they remove him from the board? If his health deteriorates, what happens if the worst comes in the next year?
You
understand what I'm saying?
It's like I mentioned.
We might sometimes have to say,
we got wonderful people in office, and sometimes they have medical issues. But if you know you're going to have medical issues from this point on,
maybe you should say, enough for me. Thank you all. We love you.
For the support.
Go somewhere else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Not to go leave and right off in the sunset.
It's kind of unfair for that district to have a board member who's not feeling well, doesn't attend meetings, doesn't fully participate in the decision making, and it really cuts the type of influence, if any, of that area to be able to exert their opinion on the rest of the board.
Absolutely.
So I think we should see it like that.
And folks, I've seen a lot of people running also that were always in front of the board complaining for one reason or another. And maybe you have, and it looks like in many regions on both sides, both LISD and UISD, that you have folks that were complaining about a certain issue that said, you know what, now that it's running, I'm going to go inside for make the issue. In a way it's good, in a way it's bad. And also there has to come with some dialogue. You have to go ahead and sit down. If you're an activist or if you see a problem, start sitting down with people. There's a difference between going to a board and starting insulting them. By the time you go to the board, your excuse of talking to board members already ended. Let me explain to what I'm saying. If I have a problem with the principal or there's an issue with this school district, I'm going to go talk to the principal. I'm going to talk to the teachers. Hey, you know what? This is going on here. You have a bunch of kids down here that are whatever, whatever. And the kids are going to be kids. But anyway, You go and you talk to the principal there. You know, we have some concerns here.
Yeah.
We have concerns on bullying. We have concerns on gang activity. We have concerns of, you know what, they're smoking dope over here at the side. What are we going to do about that? And you talk to the principal there. Then after the principal, if the principal blows you off, well, then you talk to the board member of that district. That, you know what, this is going on. This is going on. But you don't go to a board meeting and you don't insult everybody and call everybody corrupted, and you go on Facebook and start echándoles a todos, and then all of a sudden you come out here, oh, they didn't do whatever, I'm going to run against you. It looks bad.
Well, that's really what happened. Well, in this campaign, in one particular race,
There's a lot.
There's at least one case where a letter was sent out to families in that district talking bad about your opponents, and that to me, on personal matters. And in those cases, to me, I think that those are inappropriate, and that doesn't resolve the issues that you want, because people care about two things. To me, in board races, number one, are you going to give my kid the best education possible, and everything that they're supposed to get, you're going to be able to give them. And number two, are you going to keep my children safe? Mm-hmm. That's all that matters.
That's it. That's it.
There's nothing else that matters. Those two issues is what matters as a school board member, and we should really focus on those two issues instead of talking about who's dating this one or who's doing that to this one. It just to me is inappropriate.
I didn't know anything that's going on, but.
Well, there was one particular race that's going on right now,
but if they did that, that's
that tells you the
that type of
desperation.
person.
Yeah, the desperation of that candidate.
And
people,
the type of people that you're going to elect inside. Imagine electing that type of person inside. Forget about it. Anyway, now here goes. The college now. We're going to make a big jump to the college, because the college is something that is in everybody's mind, and everybody's always trying to figure out where it's coming from. Here we got LC Board of Trustee Position 1. You have Mr. Lino E. Sanchez, and he's going up against Erica Benavides Garcia. I know personally Lino. I do not know Ms. Erica Benavides Sanchez. Is that her name? Benavides Sanchez? Yes, Benavides Sanchez. Excuse me for messing up on that. But Lino was a police officer, real good guy. I'm not saying Ms. Benavides or not. I just think that he's been around, he's thrown his name in there. I've seen that he wants to change certain things in the college. He's still a police officer. So you're going to start seeing a little bit more of Lino come of age, because I think he really wants to help the college in certain areas.
Well, I think Lino Sanchez is someone, I know Mr. Sanchez, he's a very honorable person and has the qualification to serve on the board. So I don't doubt that. Erica Benavides is also someone who's very honorable and definitely very competent to do the job as well. So at the end of the day, you're going to have two good people run against each other. Like I said, there will be good people who lose and good people who win. But at the end of the day, it's all about relationships, and who knows more people to get out to vote. It's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
And they're both competent. So at the end of the day, though, I know both of them. I wish them both well. But I think Erica seems to know many more people because of her job where she's at. She's able to communicate with more people. So I may give the edge there. However, again, there's so very little information out there on the streets to give you an informed decision that I would tell you, just vote the way. And by the way, everyone gets to vote on that one. LIZ is different now again than UIZ and LISD. I told you about the runoff races, which UIZ does not have a runoff race, LISD does, and so does LCC. LCC has runoff races. So in that case, all of us get to vote on that race.
Yep.
So
from there going on, the next one. Next one is LC Board of Trustee Position 2. You have Mr. Frank Sharafa. You have Cindy Liendo. You have Ms. Priscilla Pantoja. You have Mr. Will Shrout. And you have Terry L. Neeland. Again, you have some folks that have been around the political scene for a long time. You have Mr. Frank Sharafa, who was a commissioner, who's always been involved in politics and knows the way around politics. You have Ms. Cindy Liendo, who is a commissioner right now, current commissioner of Webb County, who also knows about politics. And you have Ms. Priscilla Pantoja, which is another person that knows about politics and running campaigns and so on and so forth. So you have three strong individuals there.
Yes.
Mr. Will Shrout, I met him. Seems like a great guy.
He is.
You know, I think he's a great guy. I think he's somebody that means well. That's somebody that wants in there. Mr. Nealon, I do not know him. Maybe one day I'll get the pleasure of meeting him. This is folks, you have to get this into your all's heads when you run. And I'm going to keep on repeating this because this is the honest truth. It doesn't matter if you're the most popular. What matters is if you're the most favorite. So it's the favorite one they're going to win.
Right.
And here, I'm going to give it to the first three. And here it's going to be a runoff, and you're going to see either Mr. Frank Sharafa against Ms. Cindy Liendo. You're going to see Frank Sharafa against Ms. Priscilla Pantoja, or you might see Ms. Pantoja against Ms. Liendo. So those are the three.
Well,
triangle that I see.
let the public be aware that, of course, Cindy Liendo hired Ms. Pantoja for many years. They've been workmates for many, many years. So it was a very odd situation where they both decided to run together. They walked in together. They both filed the application together. That was very odd, but it happened. Then you have Frank Sharafa, who said, he's always wanted to be a CC board, and he has a strong passion for community service. But at the end of the day, only one wins, and some of them are good,
Yeah.
and some may not be as good. But the point is that only one will win. But in that case, there'll be a runoff. And Ms. Liendo just lost an election. I just don't think that the public is wanting her to come back. As far as I'm concerned, I think Ms. Pantoja, Mr. Frank Serafo will go into runoff, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah. I look at those three, and it's a triangle that's spinning, and you just don't know what's going to end up happening. But two of those are going to end up.
You gotta give Ms. Pantoja some credit because she has done public service projects on her own outside of Cindy.
No.
She's done it on her own. So she can say she's done some stuff on her own.
Oh, yeah.
I give her lots of credit for that. But having said that, though, the name of the game is who can get as many votes in there, and South Laredo is going to play a major role, and Frank Serafo will get the majority of the vote. Therefore, he will be first in line for a runoff, if there's a runoff.
South Laredo and West Laredo are going to play the roles here. I don't think everybody else, and there's so many people running. By the end of the day, people are just going to start clicking away. Unfortunate, and you have a lot of good folks in there. So that's what I keep telling people, research. I think Mr. Strout is a person that he has a good, he's there too, and he's somebody that you're going to see, and he's somebody that you're going to see in the near future.
Yes, there's a future for him.
And
he's a good guy. He's going against some very well-known people. He may not pull it off, but he's going to do his first run. He's going to taste it. He's going to say, you know what, I think I can do it right next time around. And so he'll work on.
So you'll see him working either for school board. I think he has a great mind and shoulder. I mean, when I talked to him,
he has energy and he has.
He was on point. He was on point. That's people that we need. Next but not least. Let me see here. The last one is LC Board Trustee Position 3. That's Mr. Gene Belmares against incumbent Mr. Mercurio Martinez Jr. That one, both I know very well. I think that one again is going to be who's going to bring out the vote. And it's going to be the person that brings out the most votes going to be the one that's going to win. The judge is liked by a lot of people.
The judge is beloved by a lot of people. He's very well appreciated by the community. He's done good. He's been in office since 1975 or 77, somewhere around there. He's had about 35 years of some type of public service experience.
More, 45 years.
So he's done many, many years of that. So the question now becomes, is it time for him to move on? or does he keep going? And I think Mr. Belmares obviously is also a very skilled person because he has been a very good businessman, has the aptitude to be able to learn quick and to be able to handle the situations. And he was a city councilman for 8 years, so he has public service experience as well. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be, and they get to vote. The whole community gets to vote, which tells me then, in my view, that Mercurio Jr., who's running for mayor, the third, excuse me, the chance of the judge winning really depends on his son. If his son does well, he will do well. If his son does not make the runoff, then he will have issues for winning this election, and Mr. Belmares will win. So it just depends where you are at in the political spectrum. But you cannot deny Mr. Martinez's, Judge Martinez's strong experience in government. But by the same token, he's been there for more than 4 years. And at one point, the public says it's time to move on. So really, it's going to be which opinion does the public want to follow through?
Yeah, and I'm going to look at it this way. I'm with you with what the public wants and the community wants. You see, we're getting to the point that the community in general does not like too many of the same last names someplace.
They don't. That's what I mean.
So there's a lot of people running with the same last name of the other, whether you're aunt, sister-in-law, whatever, and people don't like that.
But they might not have the same name. They have the same blood.
Yeah.
For example, you've got Gigi Rodriguez running for city council, and her husband is Ricky Rodriguez, who's a UIC board member. You got two Ciarroas, or a second Ciarroa running over here. You have another Tijerina running over here. I mean, so you do, and then you have another Molina running over here. So do people ask that question: is do we need to have a second one of the family in another position? I mean, those are legitimate issues.
Sure. No. I get it.
The public will decide.
Yeah, and to me, it's that race. It all depends. That race depends on Councilman
Yes.
Martinez and how he's doing.
Yes.
And
But-
that's going to depend on that race.
But
That's
I
why
do
look
want to
at
say that Mr. Jim Belmares has been a very good public official when he was here. No scandals,
it. And if
and no issues, and he continues to be a strong advocate in the city in different policy issues.
oh, he's a hell of an entrepreneur. And everybody, Mr. Martinez also with money.
Again,
I mean, there you got two
You
good
got-
guys running.
Yes, and like I said, you're gonna have some good people not win.
Yeah.
You're gonna have those.
But if you see Mr. Belmares lose, let's say he loses, you're gonna see him run again because he's gonna run again, and you're gonna see him elected into another position if that occurs. And the reason is I think people like Jean Belmares has always been around the political spectrum. He's always been around, and he's always going to be around after
If
that.
Judge Martinez wins, he'll be the oldest public official for Laredo. He's
Sure.
he's up in age.
Again,
So again, it just, you got the voters have different types of situations in different types of races, and you're gonna have good people running and good people losing.
folks, we're going to end with this because we have some excellent people running. There are a lot of good folks running in these elections. I don't see anything nefarious. The only reason we brought up the things about the family was because people need to know before they get inside. Why? Because then all of a sudden they get inside. Look what they did. No, you knew about it. You're voting for it. Understand what's going on. I think the women that are running now, there's a lot of women. More power to you. I'm supportive of that. You're going to see a lot more women win more public spaces in comparison to men. You're going to start seeing that push. So I see that coming as well. I think people are alive and well, and after 2020, the smoke is gone. The mirrors are broken. They know exactly what's going on. The magic trick doesn't work anymore. So people know exactly what they want and what they're looking for. And they want good, like you said, good school districts that are safe, and their teaching education. You have a lot push for teachers on the huge spectrum of what's going on with education, and a lot of parents are saying, you know what, let's get back onto teaching the basics and let's move forward. And I think that you're going to start seeing a lot more of that, especially here in Laredo. You're going to start seeing a lot more parents stand up. So we're going to have to start seeing a lot of board members that are going to be willing to work with the parents, because a lot of people are going to start saying, you know what, it ain't going to happen. And unfortunately, that's just where we're at now. You're going to start seeing that switch of the pendulum. The pendulum was all the way over here. Now it's coming down. It's going to come fast. So you're going to start seeing a lot of parents going in there. One of the questions I posed, and I posed to both school districts, is this. And if you guys are listening, I've asked it in open records, and I still haven't gotten it. But how much does it cost to place a student that goes into first grade, and that same student graduate? How much have we spent per each student? Okay, and is it worth it? Can that student go out there right out of high school and make that money? Understand what's going on there. Because if we're sending the vast majority of our students into college and they have to take remedial courses, then there's something wrong. And right now, it is something wrong.
That's a separate issue that I want to, this is not the day for it, but the issue.
We will talk about it.
But that's an issue that we wonder if the colleges are doing this on purpose. You gotta understand that
Oh yeah.
the more students that we send for remedial, the more money we get on a different pot of money, and it's, we don't know whether or not this is just in Laredo or is it somewhere else, but that's also another way of making more money for the school, for the university, or for the junior college. So it's important that we make sure that the kids are properly paced when they're freshmen, instead of being thrown into remedial, because many of them don't need remedial.
Absolutely.
They're blaming the school districts for being remedial. I tend to think that LCC should reconsider that issue, because they have a very strong remedial program system that needs to be looked at.
No, I'm with you. So that's what I'm saying. So that's the voice that I hear about parents out there. Are kids really coming out to that extent? And remember, I'm voicing what I hear, because I get a bunch of things out there.
I mean, if LIZ, I know, if LIZ USC is not doing their job, then we need to call it on them.
Yeah.
But you can't have too many kids from remedial. There always is going to be kids from remedial,
Sure.
but there shouldn't be more than the acceptable ratio of kids.
And right now,
It's a little bit more.
It's a little bit more. So a lot of parents are, those are the questions that we get, those are the questions that we answer. Believe me, folks, if you want to send a question and you want it for us to talk about it, a different topic that's issues with the community, my email is very simple. It's buitronacademy2012@gmail.com, and we will get that in here. We'll talk about those subject matters, because I've had that a lot of folks have called me up and said, but you interviewed so and so, and these are the questions that you should have asked. Well, thank you for letting me know those questions, and because that changes the perspective. Hey, I'm human, so we're just going in here. At least we're getting people known. And if you're a candidate and you want to come out, and you're in one of these places, give me a call. My number is very simple. It's 956-401-4868. Give me a call. Send me an email. My email's right there. Send me a private message on Facebook. You can find me in social media. If you want to come out here and expand your story, both if you're a candidate or if you're a small business, to me, that's what we're here, and that's what it's all about. And we'll leave it with that. There's a lot of issues at hand. There's a lot of good people running. You, as a voter, exercise your right to vote. We're basing our opinions of what we've seen since we've been involved with politics and campaigns for a long time. The judge longer than I have, and we've seen a lot of differences that go on there. And we're going to continue talking here, but there's also a lot of mistakes everybody's doing, and it's been the same mistakes that people committed back then.
Yes.
That lose campaigns, and it's very hard to bring that forward without hurting people's feelings. But remember, folks, campaigns need money, and I don't care what big size campaign, whether it's a school board or whether it's the President of the United States, you need to have money to advertise to get your name out there. Remember what I said. It's not the most popular, it's the most favorite. So if you might have the best knowledge in your head, you must be the nicest person in there, you might be the most handsome or the most prettiest woman out there, but if nobody knows who you are, you're gonna lose.
That's right.
All right?
That's what's important, that people understand that. And by the way, real quick, if you still haven't registered to vote, you can still register to vote for the runoff race in December.
Sure.
So there'll be runoffs, so if you still have some people who have not registered, you can still register them, but they won't vote this time, they'll vote for the next one.
Absolutely. And also, take your kids out to the vote. Take your kids with you to learn that you're going to go vote. Because we have to pass that tradition onward. You know, when I started voting when I was in college, and everybody said, hey, we're going to vote for so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. So I didn't know anybody that was there. So what do you look up there the first time voting? Oh, okay, well, this guy has, I lived in Dallas, so this guy's name is Garcia. I'm going to vote for Garcia, at least he's Hispanic. Well, and then you turn around and find out that he's the worst one out of all of them. Research your candidates, all right? Till next time. Peace.
Thank you.